Hello, gang. Tattooed Biker here with you. And as some of you know, I live in rural Pennsylvania. And let me tell you, it's a weird country here. So tonight I've got 4 real reports from right here in PA. First off, 2 women are at a gathering in the Allegheny National Forest when they noticed the movement of an invisible being that was walking through the forest. Then, 3 Amish farmers, they observe a strange man walking through the field they were working, but come to find out, he wasn't really a man at all. And then, we have a man and his dog out driving late one night in Monroe County when they spot what they think is a deer on the side of the road before getting, a horrifying surprise. And lastly, a group of friends in Ardara encounter something not quite human standing out on the railroad tracks. So, you best grab your gear and then let's ride to Pennsylvania.
Number 1. Dear Tattooed, something happened to me and a friend at a rainbow gathering in 2009 in Pennsylvania's Allegheny National Forest. It was right before the loads of people showed up and we were camped away from everyone else. We were alongside the main trail that goes from the parking area and leads down a large hill to the main clearing. It was around dusk, so light was fading fast and we had a fire going. We were both sitting there, just having a deep conversation about life and spirituality, when we decided to head down the trail to the clearing and find some food. At that moment, we were standing up, and some people who'd been walking up the trail stopped to take a break about 30 yards below us. Anna says to me, "Hey, do you hear that?" I could clearly hear someone walking in the woods off to our left. The thing is, there was nothing out that way, as we were quite a ways from the main clearing and facing the direction of all the lights and people. The footsteps could be heard coming from our left and below us, heading straight for those people who were taking a break on the trail. I looked and I could see nothing where my eyes said that I should be seeing what was making those steps. There was nothing to be seen, and I could actually see where the steps were landing, leaves being moved and kicked up. Whatever it was walking up to those people on the trail, whom were still talking to each other. None of them seemed to notice anything, but the steps definitely slowed down as it made a turn, going past them like it was checking them out. And then it came straight at me and Anna. Anna was fumbling with her keychain, trying to find a little flashlight. Whatever was making those steps came right up to the other side of the fire pit without stopping. It approached slowly, and Anna pointed her light at it and said, "Hey!" And as if in response, it took off up the hill right past me, incredibly fast, kicking up leaves and dirt as it went. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. The entire time it sounded like an invisible child that was power walking, taking short, quick steps. And when it took off past me, it was still power walking, with small machine gun-like steps, if that makes any sense. There would have been no way for me to chase it. This thing was, far too fast. And we both took off running down the hill. Now this really happened, and I don't think it was a ghost because, it didn't seem human exactly. I always lean toward fairies or leprechauns for some reason. I had the distinct impression that the little invisible dude didn't realize that it was being noticed. Thanks. Signed, TJ.
Narrator's note here. The Allegheny National Forest covers over 500,000 acres of Appalachian foothills and is situated in 4 different counties in northwestern Pennsylvania. It's well known for anomalous activity, including Bigfoot, upright cryptid canines, and winged cryptid sightings and encounters. Whatever this being or entity was, it certainly fits with the reputation of this location.
Number 2. Near Strasburg, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, one afternoon in August of 1978, three Amish men were working in their field when a strange-looking man approached them from the direction of the neighboring farm. This man was acting really strangely, yelling and jumping around. The Amish men were quite alarmed and noticed that this man had arms, legs, and a face that, well, seemed different, more animal than human. He had coarse, dark hair all over his limbs and his face, and he wore dark and tattered boxer shorts. As the man-creature approached them, he yelled something, but it sounded like gibberish, and it wasn't understood by the men. The men ran off towards their house, and the man-creature chased behind them. One of the Amish men ducked into the dairy barn, and the other two immediately entered the house. An elderly Amish woman who had been in the garden came to see what the commotion was. When the man-creature saw her, it suddenly stopped running, just sat down on the grass and stared at the sky. The men came out of the house, and one slowly walked over to the man-creature and attempted to talk to it. The creature continued to look at the sky and muttering that same gibberish. The man and woman noticed what a horrible smell permeated from this creature. They described it as rotting flesh. After a few minutes, the creature got to its feet and walked off towards the dairy barn. And as it did, the witnesses all noticed that it was gradually fading away. Eventually, it completely vanished from view just before it reached the barn. Shocked, the Amish witnesses dropped to their knees, not knowing what they had just witnessed.
Narrator's note here. This account was communicated by one of the witnesses to a non-Amish friend who periodically purchased produce from them. It was disclosed to me a while later, but I'm familiar with the location. The witness who recounted the event has since, unfortunately, passed away, but I was able to verify the incident before that. In turn, I promised to keep personal information strictly confidential. Historically, this area, the folklore has mentioned various wild men and or Bigfoot-like creatures. There have been sightings as old as the early settlers in the area. In addition, the Shawnee and Susquehannock people who once inhabited the land felt that these were actually spirits. And a while back, I spoke with a self-proclaimed shaman whose Susquehannock ancestors had moved to Ohio and Maryland after many others were killed off by smallpox and invading settlers. The Susquehannocks were referred to as giants by John Smith and the early settlers. Most were described as being well over 6 feet tall and broad-chested. This shaman told me that the Susquehannocks cursed the land before they left. He said that the dead would rise up as shapeshifters and torment the white man. Do with that little anecdote what you will.
Number 3. Dear Tattooed Biker, I was driving to a local convenience store near Strawber, Pennsylvania in Monroe County to pick up something to eat. My dog was with me, and it was just before midnight. Everything was normal on the way there, but on the way back, something weird happened. As I approached a stop sign outside of town, my dog starts growling. My dog rarely growls, so when he does, I really take notice. I looked around and I saw a deer walking toward the road from behind a large oak tree. The deer then stepped out onto the road, and it's about 50 feet from me. But then the deer starts to walk towards the headlights of my car. As it gets closer, I start to see its face much clearer. At first, I literally shook my head in disbelief, and then I did a double take. This deer had a freaking human face. There was no elongated nose, no big dark eyes. It was a person's face. The eyes had whites surrounding dark blue-colored irises, and they were forward-setting, looking directly at me. I just froze. I don't even remember if my dog was growling at this point. I was truly terrified by what I was witnessing. It kept looking at me for almost a full minute, and then it turned and slowly walked to the other side of the road and off into the woods. I stepped on the gas and, well, I got the hell out of there. When I got home, I immediately went inside my house and poured a stiff drink. I needed to know what I saw, and so I went online. I stayed up most of the night looking for an explanation for what I'd witnessed. I had read a few other accounts of what people refer to as not a deer, but nothing was as dramatic as what I just saw. I'm beginning to think that maybe I witnessed the results of some kind of experiment that went wrong. I found your contact email from one of your videos. Can you or your community please give me an answer or as a theory as to what I saw? This happened on Monday, June 26th, 2024. Signed, Dickie.
Narrator's note. I talked to this witness by telephone, and I'm afraid that I wasn't much help with any kind of explanation. The not a deer phenomenon is truly an enigma.
Number 4. Dear Biker, one day in March of my sophomore year of high school, I had 2 friends of mine sleep over on a Friday night. These 2 friends and I were always adventurous and getting ourselves in something that we had no business really doing at 15 or 16 years old, but, well, we did it anyways. So we have the sleepover and do whatever on Friday. We woke up pretty early on Saturday morning, somewhere between 7 and 8 a.m. My parents always slept in on Saturday mornings. My mom being a bus driver and out of the house before I was even up for school, and my dad working 9 to 5 in the back of a car dealership. I, knowing my parents have at least another 3 hours of good solid sleep, say, hey, let's go to the train tracks and smoke cigarettes and hit this little bit of weed that we have. We easily could have gone on my back deck or somewhere a bit closer, but what fun would that have been? We all get out our stuff and we head out really early that morning. The train tracks aren't a very long distance from my house, about an 8-minute walk. I lived in a small neighborhood. It's called the village of Ardara. No more than 30 houses in a small town that's located to the side of a drag called Route 993. My mom always said, if you blink, you'll miss it. We walked the shoulder of 993 for, well, maybe 50 feet. And there's a post office for Ardara, and right across from this post office is a bridge to go onto Ledger Road. We go over the bridge, which has been shut down for years, and once you cross the bridge, there's a little cut in the woods that loops you back to the train tracks. Now, the train tracks, where I was, are a very long and straight track. You could see at least for a mile down, and on each side of the train track is a very steep hillside. At this point in March, there was no greenery on shrubs, trees, or bushes, and you could easily see anything on these hillsides. For example, a deer wouldn't be able to hide too well. My friends and I are on the train tracks, and we walk down them, maybe a half a football field in distance. We stop and hurry up, ready to light or half a bowl of weed. This is where things start to get spooky. As we huddle to light up our bowl, I, knowing these train tracks, glance one time back to make sure that a train wasn't coming through the straightway. At the moment of checking, that's when I say out loud, hey, do you guys see that too? And as I ask this to make sure I'm not seeing things, they both say faintly, yeah, we see it. What I saw is just downright unexplainable, but I'll try my best to try and describe it. It wasn't a man, but it was the same height and body stock of a man. Whatever this was, it had no face, no ears, no mouth, no hair, no hat on, no eyes, and no nose. This thing, it didn't even have a skin tone. It was solid white. In fact, it was the whitest thing that I've ever seen skin-wise. It had an outfit on very relatable to a Michael Myers type character, like a blue jumpsuit that you would see on a janitor or an auto mechanic. It is also relatable to Slender Man, but it wasn't overly tall and abnormal like Slender Man. Just a whole white face, no facial feature thing. This man, or whatever it was standing, facing us, only about 25 yards away. We just walked down here and were walking toward where he would have been, like it appeared out of nowhere, literally. When my friends both say, "Yeah, we're looking at this," I turn and run the other direction, back towards the bridge just as fast as I can. I glance back at them one time just to make sure they're okay, and they're both running right behind me. And when I looked back, I saw the thing. It was at the exact same place it was before. The only thing that changed was it wasn't positioned facing us in the bridge. Its body was now facing the hillside and looking directly forward. We run back under the bridge and up the little cut back to the top of it. It took us probably no more than 15 seconds to get back to the bridge. We stood there for at least an hour, waiting. We waited so patiently to see something or someone walk around or just anything, but nothing ever happened. I've told my brother, my mom, co-workers, and friends since then. Everyone believes me, but no one ever has any kind of reasoning or anything for what happened. I remember it so vividly, and it still scares me to this day. I can't explain what happened. Does anyone out there have any input? I'm from Pennsylvania, and like I said, lived in the village of Ardara, Westmoreland County to be specific, and you can easily look up the Ardara post office and see the bridge across from it. There's even some pictures I found of a train enthusiast that has pictures below and on that same bridge. Thanks for reading. Signed, Hank. And there it is. All the unexplained reports from Pennsylvania that I have for you tonight. I'd love to hear your thoughts and theories about these down in the comments, but please, keep it respectful to the witnesses. And also, if you have a story that you'd like to share, just email it to the email address in the description, and well, your experience may just wind up in a future episode. Anyways, thanks so much for riding with me tonight. I really appreciate the company, and until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay safe, and, well, I'll be seeing you on down the road a ways. Biker out.